Hello everyone. Very happy. Today I was invited. Join us for this Hack.summit Hong Kong convention. Let me make a keynote speech about BL2. BL2 is one. Fully compliant with Bitcoin maximalism infrastructure. It is based on Elastos and BTC joint mining, owns more than half of Bitcoin's computing power. Support your own smart contracts. Then through BTC Oracle, zero knowledge proof. Let BTC, no need to cross the chain out of the main network. I don't touch BTC holders at all. Ownership and management of assets. And then let BTC participate. Protected by more than half of Bitcoin's computing power. In the smart contract ecosystem, which is ESC, so next. We are going to implement BTC swap, that is, BTC cannot leave the main network. No loss of management of assets at all, via BTC Oracle, participate in smart contracts for other chains, even smart contracts that dominate other chains. So in May, we will implement a BTC loan, which means that BTC also don't leave the mainnet. The same is not lost. Ownership and management of assets. Just take advantage of the Taproot's time lock. Can participate. Smart contracts on other chains. Realization of loans for trading atomic assets. So this, maximalism for BTC. For these BTC owners, a just needed scenario is implemented. That is, BTC unliquidated. You have access to sufficient capital. Get involved in the whole market transaction, including making other investments. This we believe will be the case in the future. The United States includes big ETFs in Hong Kong, a just needed scene, because they accumulate a lot of BTC in their hands. So without BTC loan on BL2, they can reap the compounding effects of huge assets. So we think, BL2 must stick to Bitcoin maximalism. Finally, we are all about BTC. Bitcoin, its network is more secure, more transparent. Stick with Satoshi. The great ideal of computing democracy, really now. Global, deep in the debt crisis. Allow BTC to do what gold did in the last century. The most basic. For the global market, the role of basic credit consensus. Then we believe only BTC. Technologies like blockchain, so that the world can gradually come out. This round is heavy. The disaster of the debt crisis really can give to the world, to bring all mankind into the next prosperous civilization. Rich and developed, a new era. Let's work together. Let BTC and BL2 join you. BL2, under the banner of Bitcoin maximalism, contribute our strength together for the development and progress of human civilization. Make our efforts. Thank you all.
Thank you very much for your attention. There is one more interesting video that we would like to share with you as well. BL2's promotional video ad has been shown on a digital billboard here in Hong Kong in Lan Kwai Fong. And we would like to introduce it to you as well here at the summit. So please pay attention to the screen. Thank you. Thank you very much for your attention. Perhaps you'll see the ad running in Lang Kwai Fong later on when you visit the central in Hong Kong. So moving on, we have another panel discussion about zero knowledge proof and restaking. Zero knowledge proof is an extremely hot topic in Web3 space, and I also personally find it very exciting because it's also very important. If done right, it could solve a lot of issues. This topic has been also mentioned today in the morning by Mr. Ed Roman. Basically, it's the concept of proving the information without disclosing it. And if blockchain could solve that problem, that would be an immense leap forward. And on this note, I'd like to invite our panelists today to discuss this very exciting topic. The moderator of the topic will be Nicole Sun from Zuzalu Core, and our panelist, V.S. Krishnan, who represents the strategy of EigenLayer. Unfortunately, Federica Caron could not join us here right now, so it will be two panelists discussing the topic. They are currently arriving, so please give it a few moments to welcome our panelists on stage. Thank you.
It'll just be a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll have the next panel.
Guess we can have a short break while we're waiting on the next panelists. Thank you for your understanding. In the meantime, we have a short Hack VC promotional video for you. So if you could pay attention to the screen while we're awaiting our next panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a slight break in between now and the next interview with Eigenlayer. And in the interim, I wanted to introduce one of the important partners from Hack.summit, Omer Ozden from RockTree Capital. And we'll be talking a little bit about East versus West venture capital in preparation for this session with Eigenlayer. So it's a pleasure to have you here, Omer.
Thank you, Ed. Pleasure
Would
to
you like
be
to have a
here.
seat?
Thank you.
We'll have a little fireside chat here. So Omer is one of these rare investors, in my experience, who is both generous as well as incredibly helpful with his portfolio companies and has a particular expertise in helping startups in the West break out into Asian markets. And we love working with him in that regard. So Omer, maybe tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in investing.
Sure, thank you. But first I want to say to everybody, guys, Hack VC did a great job in organizing this event. In fact, like the comparison to what we've experienced over the days before to the quality of the audience that's here, the speakers that are here, really compact into one event where it's really high value. So thank you for that, Ed. Thank you for putting that together.
We're grateful to have you here to learn with us. So I want to thank you as well.
Yeah, 谢谢, and thank you for having us co-host. So in terms of my background, I'm Omer Ozden. I'm the founder of RockTree Capital. 我们是一个北京的房产投资者. We're a Chinese VC early stage. And our team is in the East and also in the West. And let me give you a little bit about my background. So I first came to China, Taiwan in 1991. And in 1996, I was brought over to Beijing by some people who eventually became like the Steve Jobs and Wozniak of China, which is Yu Minghong and Xu Xiaoping. So if you guys are, I know that there's a lot of friends from mainland China here. You would recognize those names. They became legendary founders. And we set up, we helped with startups in Zhongguancun. So who knows what Zhongguancun is here? Put up your hand. Okay. You guys gotta know. Because Zhongguancun is the Silicon Valley of China. So you need to know Zhongguancun, but when I went there in 1996, it was still dirt roads. And there was all these emerging companies rising in the 90s, particularly we were moving from Web 1 to Web 2. So we did that, but then I was still a student at the time. I went back to law school, and I came back, and I worked here and in Beijing to create something. I was on the team, the legal team that invented something called the VIE structure. Who knows what the VIE structure is? Okay, you guys know. Okay, so for the foreigners, the Westerners that don't know what the VIE structure was, today you think that Web 3 is difficult in China? Web 2 in the 90s was even more difficult because everything was illegal. Nothing was authorized. Even a website was not legal. Foreign investment into a Chinese internet company, WAFA, okay? It was illegal. So I was on the legal team that actually created these structures. We got approval from 5 authorities in China. We got approval from the SEC, and we did the first investments and the structuring for Baidu, Alibaba, NetEase, and all these companies that became the large Goliaths of Chinese Web 2, and they exploded from their first money in to something that is completely unrecognizable today, and we IPO'd them on the NASDAQ with US approval and Chinese government approval. So that forged the ethos of RockTree Capital, which is uniting East and West to help humans through technology, and we carry that today to Web 3.
It's an incredible background. Thank you, Omer. I think a lot of folks in the audience who are building protocols or are curious about building protocols might be wondering, what is special about the Asian markets? Because you could kind of put your blinders on, and you could try to build a protocol out of Europe or in the West, and you could maybe not pay too much attention to the Asian markets. But there might be consequences for that, right? So tell us a little bit about the importance of Asian markets, and also how to capture the minds and hearts of Asian investors, and maybe some best practices that might go along with that, or things to watch out for as well.
Okay, great question. First of all, the markets, there's a lot of similarities, but it's really Mars and Venus. So the most important thing is you have to localize. You have to be really grassroots and local in the Asian markets. It's really important. And you can't see that the market as a place where you just parachute in. You have to be here permanently. Your team has to be here. You have to localize for the local markets here. It's really important. And I don't think a lot of Westerners understand the scale of Asian markets. Like, you kind of have an idea, and maybe from Hong Kong you can get a taste. But when you go to all the other regions, Vietnam, mainland China, obviously South Korea, all these other places, Hong Kong is just a portal for that. Singapore is just a portal for that. But behind that are tens of millions of people in Web 3 and Web 2 as well, who are developers, they're investors, they are people who are helping promote community, they're partners. If you look at the largest crypto projects in the world, a lot of them emanate from Greater China. Officially, they may say they're from Singapore or Malta, whatever, but they come from Greater China. Any serious protocol, any serious Web3 project that ignores this market is doing it at its peril, because you can't be a global protocol if you don't actively engage this market.
That's well said. And how are the regulations? Are they generally favorable in the East for crypto protocols? Are they embracing of these projects, or is the regulatory body still evolving in the East right now?
Okay, great question. So if you look at our website, rocktreecapital.com, you'll see like there's a quick flash of something that's a little bit subversive. It says separating money and state since 2008. And kind of that's what we're doing. We're decentralizing, and eventually maybe 50, 100, 200 years from now, we can have separation of money and state. And that's like one of our long-term goals eventually. But I think if you look at some Asian markets, they are very, at the highest level, they are very aware that currency, particularly the US dollar, has been used to weaponize certain things. And that, when I look at Japan, when I look at Singapore, even Hong Kong and some other markets, some of the thinking emerges from that we want freedom, true financial freedom. And so we've seen Singapore be one of the most progressive. In 2017, they came out with their guidance for issuing tokens, and they went in a completely different direction than what the SEC in the United States was taking, which was saying everything's a security. The regulators in Singapore said, no, not everything's a security. Okay, we treat it as a commodity so we can have these very clear regulations, and Singapore exploded in that way, like in terms of being a crypto hub. Japan also very advanced. In fact, it was the first one to embrace. They've had like 2 steps forwards, 1 step back, because they will embrace crypto through a regulatory standpoint, but then there'll be a hack and then the government will get scared and take a couple of steps back. But they've also recently, in 2023, made some major regulatory moves to embrace crypto. And then this market. This market, to many people, may appear as, okay, it's special, Hong Kong special administrative region. It's separate from China, but this is China. And I think that in 2022, the government here decided that we really need to invigorate the ethos of the Hong Kong market, which is finance. And so they went, the leadership went to Beijing and they started petitioning them to help Hong Kong to open up the market and bring clear regulations with respect to embracing crypto. And in 2003, that happened. And actually for us, as an investor, originally from Beijing and from here, but also in Western markets, that sent us a very clear signal that there was an embracing of crypto in this market. So we started deploying a lot of capital because we knew that this would also bring better macro conditions because you need the regulators on board. And I think that Japan and Hong Kong really moved forward in 2023 from a regulatory standpoint to embrace crypto even more. And to that extent, I would say that the bull run, the favorable macro conditions, started in Asia in September, while the SEC was still suing Binance, Coinbase, and so forth. And so we didn't really start to get that type of sentiment till maybe early 2024 in the United States. So this is the region that has shown from a regulatory standpoint and also from a grassroots standpoint, really embracing innovation.
I agree. And if you look recently at what's been happening in Asian markets, there's almost been a new surge of interest in NFTs in the form of Bitcoin ordinals in Asian markets. And it's really been a phenomenon to witness. And the excitement has been much more pronounced in Asia compared to the US. And in the US, what we experienced over the last few years was a massive crash of NFTs. Yeah. And then that resulted in the surge of Bitcoin ordinals. So what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that the Bitcoin ordinal NFT market may experience a similar crash? Is that a danger that we should be worried about? Or do you think it's here to stay? What do you think about that?
I think it's like, consider a small project from Vancouver called CryptoKitties, which pretty much came close to crashing Ethereum. It is the first wave of what's happening on Bitcoin chain. All of these fun little things, memes and so forth. now you are seeing a true ecosystem develop on Bitcoin. And guess what? It's developing here. Guess what? The degen activity is in Asia. And Asians have embraced it, just like the hash rate. 70% of the hash rate was coming from Greater China at one point in time, just like Vitalik had to come here to help with developing proof of work hardware and so forth. The early adopters, a lot of them are in Asia. And so it's not just ordinals on Bitcoin. It's an entire ecosystem that's developing. And just about every Asian VC has been hip to that for at least 10 months. But American VCs, like, I would say only about 25%, like you guys know about it and you were really progressive with like certain projects, but I'd say only 25% or so have woken up to it. But by sometime this summer, sometime maybe in Q4, everybody's gonna know about Bitcoin as an entire ecosystem that's emerging.
We agree, and we kind of look at Bitcoin as, even though it's an older technology, we actually look at it as the next frontier. Because if you look back in 2018, 2017, there were a number of layer 1 protocols and then layer 2 protocols, most of which accrued a very large amount of value. And a lot of them were based on Ethereum back then. And if you look at the market sizing of Bitcoin right now and how large that asset class is, it's almost like there's a whole new wave of infrastructure now that's powering Bitcoin. And there's been some sentiment in the market that's been negative about that. There's been investors and there's been founders who say, this is too crowded, there's too many of these guys in here, most of them are not going to make it, right? But then there's another part of me that thinks, maybe a lot of these guys will make it just because it's such a large market and there's so much Bitcoin out there in the world. What do you think, Omer?
Okay, so I think that if you take the resilience of the chain and also the decentralization, that actually it is the closest to the ethos that we're trying to achieve in crypto. And so that matters. And I would add to that there's a more profound understanding in China of proof of work. Like, I feel like in the Western is more about tangping, like proof of stake. You just sit back and you just collect some yield on proof of stake. But like, actually, the true ethos, proof of work, like the profound understanding of you have to work to do your mining. You have to have difficulty in your consensus. And so that's an important concept that's, I think, more appreciated in this market than it is in the West. And so that's an important factor. And I'm going to add one more thing. I'm a securities attorney by background. Okay, I come from TradFi. You come from TradFi as well, like you're tech, but before Web3. So as a TradFi investor, there's something we call a pinhole issue. Okay, you take a piece of paper, you poke a little pen in it, and there's your risk profile. And the Wall Street guys will spend hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to get rid of that pinhole risk because it's too much. If there's an issue, these guys lose their jobs, plus lawsuits, plus maybe enforcement actions by the SEC. So if I'm a Wall Street investor and I want to put $10 billion on a chain and I want to develop an ecosystem, there's 500 chains that I could choose from, okay? But I can immediately eliminate the ones that are regularly going down. And those that still have a legal compliance risk, I don't want to touch them. And guess what? Even with, and I don't want to knock any other chain but we just need to talk like openly here because they're all good. But there's only one chain that right now has a free pass on that. And the SEC has been giving these subtle hints, sometimes not so subtle, that they still are open to enforcement actions or labeling something as a security. And we know what chains those are, but there's only one chain that's got a free pass. So I'm BlackRock. I don't want to fuck around with that. Sorry for my language. I don't want to mess around with that pinhole risk. Okay? I'm putting $10 billion of assets on a chain. Can't be something that the SEC all of a sudden comes out and says it's a security or there's something else like that. So Westerners, TradFi is not there yet. They don't realize that, this is my prediction that this is going to happen, but 4 or 5 years from now, when you've got the real TradFi guys doing big numbers, they're not going to be going to some of these top 20 chains. A lot of them are going to be choosing Bitcoin.
Yeah, and just to echo that, I believe the Securities and Exchange Commission actually did the crypto industry a little bit of a favor with how they greenlit 11 Bitcoin ETFs on the same day. Because, look, let's just be honest, the SEC should have approved those years earlier when they first wanted to launch. And the SEC dug its heels in and waited and really slowed our industry down. But then the result of all that was that 11 Bitcoin ETFs got approved simultaneously on the same day. And you know what that caused? It caused a marketing event for crypto. Because now we had 11 different famous large Wall Street firms, each of them promoting their Bitcoin ETF simultaneously and basically telling their clients that cryptocurrency is an exciting asset class again. That marketing event would never have happened if each of these had been slow rolled and approved one at a time over many years.
Totally.
So we actually think that this year is going to be fantastic. We're bullish for cryptocurrency and we're excited to be a part of it. And so, Omar, we're really going to thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much.
Your comments were fantastic and we learned a lot. So
Thank you, Ed. Thanks to everybody for participating in this event, and thanks to Hack VC as well. Thank you.
awesome. We'll be right back with our next panel. Thanks again.